May the words of my lips and the meditations of all our hearts be now and always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Last night, and admittedly a little bit into this morning, I got to do one of those things that we did more earlier in the pandemic, and it was good to do again. A bunch of us who were teenage friends together, leaders and participants from my years involved in youth ministry in the Diocese of Toronto, we met up over Zoom to catch up and remember who we used to be and on who we have become. And it was wonderful in some ways to be with old friends and hard in other ways, because these relationships with people who have grown in some ways together and in many ways apart are like every other relationship in this world. They change, they grow, they become stronger as we stand together through hard times, and they become weaker as our paths diverge. And there is both joy and pain in remembering what once was. We, people, humankind, it has become so clear in these last months, we are made for one another. We are made to be in relationship with one another. And each of us, we are the sum total of who we have become under the influence of all the people that we have known, all of the relationships that have formed and shaped us. Parents and siblings and teachers and friends, the ones who helped us and the ones who harmed us. Our blessings and our scars make us who we are. And so often, it is relationships that change us. It's love. It is love that so often asks us to see the world from a new perspective. And so, having seen the world in a new way, we are changed, transformed, and we cannot go back. Is there any power for change that is stronger than for someone we already care about, asking, please, please, see how this world is hurting me and make it stop? I do not call you servants any longer, Jesus says. I call you friends. In the years that they have been together, Jesus has changed. The disciples have changed. They have changed each other. And when they began, Jesus led and the disciples followed, and Jesus taught and the disciples learned, and Jesus commanded and the disciples acted. And in those years of following and of learning and of action, the disciples grew and they came to understand things about their friend Jesus, their master, Jesus, about the stories that he told and about his care for those who are hungry, about who he noticed in the crowds. And now Jesus says, as he begins to try and make them understand that they are coming to the end of their journey together. Now Jesus says they have, in their following and in their learning and in their action, they have come to know everything they need to know to walk without him. They know what love is. And they know that love itself is the commandment. That this is how they are to walk in the way of love. And that is enough for them to know. Love and abiding. It is enough. And all the rest, they will figure out as they go. I think about this a lot, this transformation from servants to friends. It's a hard thing for any relationship to weather, right? A change in the balance, and especially a change in the balance of power. Maybe you have come to be friends with someone who was your teacher, friends with someone who once had power over you, but now sits beside you. And it's good, right? But it was hard to get there. It's a hard thing for Jesus to say, you are enough, and you have enough, and you can do this without me. And it's a hard thing for the disciples to learn to stand on their own, to rely on their own abiding and their own love without Jesus leading the way. I think about this as I contemplate life with 2 teenagers in my house. We're less than a month away from having 2 teenagers. And I remember when I led and they followed, and when I taught and they actually believed I knew anything worth learning. When I commanded and they, sometimes. This transformation, though, from servant to friend is exactly the transformation that I want to navigate well with my kids and for them. I look to Jesus at the ascension, and I want to be able to send my kids out into the world trusting that they are enough, that they have enough, that they know enough, trusting that they will love and that they will be loved, trusting that some part of them will always abide with me and I with them. I mean, not yet, but the day is coming. And this is the goal, that one day, once I've taught them that everything I learned from my parents, we will all sit down together as friends. And my joy will be in them, and their joy will be complete. And I don't really know what that will look like, but I do know that there will be joy involved. Joy is important. Joy matters a lot. And it's this that I want more than I want their obedience. I want their friendship, and I want their joy. And I want some part of who I am to abide in them, and some part of who they are to abide in me, even as I want them to move out of my house. Once I've taught them everything that I know about how to find joy, everything that I learned from my parents and from others who have loved me. We have so much parental language for God. And we think so often, I suspect, of that parenting in terms of the stern parent of small children. Don't touch that stove. Look both ways before you cross the street. Eat your veggies. I know what's best for you. You should do it. And it's true, God knows what's best for us, and we absolutely should do it. But that image, the parent who leads and who teaches and who commands, that's just one phase in a long and dynamic and changing arc circle, maybe, of a parent-child relationship. But here in John's Gospel, we see Jesus navigating that hard transition from a parent who commands to God as the parent who trusts and who sends and who abides and who is very much concerned with our joy. Which makes me wonder what it is like for God to see us making our way through the world, to watch us failing so often to love one another. Even though God knows, we know better. And I wonder too about how hard it is for us to mature into this new dynamic of friendship with God, trusted and sent out to heal and to feed a hurting world, loved and loving. It's much easier to do what we've always done, to play it safe, to find someone willing to tell us what to do, because there will always be someone willing to tell us what to do. We must sometimes be so hard to watch. And yet somehow this God who abides can't keep God's eyes off of us. But then it is also true that with roadblock after roadblock, keeping Mary and her family from this final leg of their journey towards Guelph, I see the refugee committee standing firm in love, not waiting to be told what to do, but saying, we will figure this out. We will make sure that we are ready. I see the kitchen bees. Happy birthday, kitchen bees! Friday was the first anniversary of the first time that people gathered in our kitchen to prepare meals. As COVID hit and plans for community shared dinners in our hall crashed around us, people stood firm in love and said, we will figure out a way to feed our neighbors who are hungry. I see the apostles' crafters working away, at first in the church garden and then in their homes, with sticks and with strings, so that when we cannot hold or hug our beloved, we can wrap them in a prayer shawl in warmth that came from someone's hands. See them standing firm in love to say, we will figure out a way to be with you when we cannot be with you. I see countless acts of kindness and connection and courage from all of you who in the last year have seen the world with a new perspective and have been changed, transformed. You who have and who are standing firm in love to change the world around you in whatever ways you can for the better. Knowing that love is the commandment. It is the way. It is the only way. Figuring out how to do it. Sometimes we find ourselves transformed by love. When one of God's children cries out, please, please see how this world is hurting me and make it stop. And love finds a way. Love stands firm and finds a way. And God sees this too. And I have to believe God finds joy in it. And says, my friend, I knew you could. Thanks be to God.